The Remarkable Paper Pro. This is what a lot of people have been waiting for 4 years since the Remarkable 2. And the second generation was starting to feel the effects of time. Remarkable did something remarkable in that they've taken a practically failed technology with over $100 million in R&D behind it, EINK Gallery 3, and applied it to this latest unit. This is risky, extremely risky, seeing that the only 3 manufacturers to ever take a shot at Gallery 3 was Sharp, Pocketbook, and us, courtesy of bigme. All 3 of those devices having failed as latency and other slowdowns affected it to an unusable state. Well, the Paper Pro has rectified all that and has gotten it to a realistic level where you can actually use this day to day. Because this isn't a multimedia device, specs don't matter too much, but we'll go over a little bit of what makes this unit special. It's using a canvas color display based off of the EINK Gallery 3 platform. It's an 11.8-inch screen with 229 ppi. It has a quad-core processor, 2 gigs of RAM, and you get approximately 50 gigs of storage when it's all said and done, all operating off of a 5030 milliamp battery. And we've got to say, this device doesn't come cheap. In fact, it is considerably expensive, costing, without a folio and a basic pen, $580 USD. And depending on your market and accessory choices, can be as much as $1,100 USD, making this one of the most expensive e-paper products in the industry south of a monitor. Is the Remarkable Paper Pro any good? There's only one way to find out. Looking at the unit, it is pretty plain. It's just kind of a standing layout, and it actually departs its way from the Remarkable 2 with the side ledger, who basically pioneered everyone to copy and follow suit, from Onyx to bigme, etc. And they've gone back down to the Remarkable 1 layout minus the buttons on the bottom. So they actually are coming full circle to the point where they're actually looking more like a V-Woods now that it's in a portrait layout, but that's neither here nor there. The design of this is marvelous. You get this double indented aluminum block with a USB-C on the bottom, a pen magnet snap indicator on the right, power button on the top, and 4 beautiful rubber stoppers on the back with this ever so slight subtle bronze appearance on the back plate. Fully aluminum, high quality, no snap. It almost feels like the thing is packed to the brim. There's no hollow spot, with a beautiful Remarkable logo on the center left third. You also have a 5-pin pogo pin setup that is utilized for the type folio. These rubber stoppers are amazing. You put this down and it does not move. More so than previous generations, more than the Scribe. This thing is insane how grippy it is. Just to give you some perspective, the last generation Remarkable 2 is 407 grams, but when we go up to this one, it's no longer a lightweight unit. This thing is a heavy boy. 522. That is a significant increase. Yes, it's a wider device. Yes, it's a bigger device. Yes, it's a thicker device, but it is going to be heavier in the hands. And this is close to a kg when you have the folio, depending on the folio, the type folio or the regular leather folio, and the pen attached. It's getting pretty heavy. Their new pen is nothing short of perfection, with one major flaw. We'll get to that in a second. Now, this comes in at 19 grams, which is on the heavier side of things, comparing that to the premium Scribe pen at 15 grams and the new V-Wood pen at 17 grams. So it's on the heavier side of pens. Now, there's one major problem with this, in that this doesn't work on any other device. And no other Wacom works on the Remarkable Paper Pro. So they shot themselves in the foot 10 times over, in that this doesn't even work on the Remarkable 2. There's no cross-compatibility with anything in our industry. It doesn't work on the Scribe, it doesn't work on the V-Woods, it doesn't work on the Remarkable 2. It only works on the Paper Pro. Now, given that, is it a nice pen? It is a fantastic pen. The back subtly presses down with an eraser function. You get this gorgeous design of this indented, wrapped around Remarkable, just subtly poking out there. Absolutely amazing build, amazing feel in the hand. It tapers ever so slightly to the tip. I'm talking 1/4 of a millimeter. The feel of this, it feels like you're holding 2000 grit sandpaper in your hands. The tips are all brand new, completely renovated tips for the new generation, and you get this lengthwise line that runs the length of the pen. It is a gorgeous pen, and the tips are removable as well, and they give you tips. Before we get into the usability, you must take note of one thing: the overall brightness of the unit. This is the Remarkable 2. You'll see how white it is. This is the Paper Pro. It is completely gray. Compare. And this is not Remarkable's problem. This is everyone in the industry. Whether you're using Kaleido, Gallery, Spectra, you get a grayer look because it just comes down to how the screen is compiled. You're utilizing more colors. You're deviating away from having just a monochromatic yes and no black and white system where the particles are either up or down. There's so many things happening as an intermediary on this that you'll never get it as white as the previous generations or any other devices in the industry. Much like the Remarkable 2, the UI is very simplistic, and this is by design. This is not a mistake. They didn't leave anything out. This is what they intended on making. It is a very one-trick pony device layout. Now, they do have a glow light this time, which is really nice. We'll show you that a little bit later on. They have glow light, they have airplane mode, and they have this button as well, which is new on the drop-down, which is screen share. They have done screen sharing in the past, but this one has a dedicated UI element. If you swipe the top down, you get your Wi-Fi, you get your battery life, and you could swipe up or tap out to get rid of it. Top left brings up basically the Remarkable 2 carried over, which is My Files, filter by favorites, tags, trash, guides, and settings. We are going to look at the settings because we want to see if there's anything different compared to the last one. Now, we do have our account, language and keyboard, version, and the marker. It will tell you if it is attached or not, and when you do attach it, the little battery symbol comes up. So you actually do have to charge the pen, but a good thing is that it's passive. You don't have to plug in a USB at the back or anything like that, so you're good on that account. If you go to the display, you have light, sleep, brightness, and reading light, so you can go ahead and change those as you wish. You have Wi-Fi. You can pause the video at any given time if you want to see any of these. You have battery, auto sleep to save battery. You have your storage. It has 46.32 gigs and with virtually nothing used so far, which is really nice. And you have security. You have passcode, you have personal information, and you have light sleep again, which is the same thing as if you go to general and display. They just kind of put it in two places, and I'm not sure why they doubled down on that, but they really want to drive that home. You get handedness, which is right hand, left hand, and the font size you can standardize either large through UI wide or standard. Now, I have found that in the past when you go large text font, it does get a little bit cumbersome, but this is one of the biggest devices currently in the market south of a 13.3. So with that, you do get a lot more screen real estate to justify having a larger font size. So just keep that in mind if that's something you want to do. Lastly, the home screen is this screen because you can't go back anymore. There's no UI elements or swiping or anything else that you can do to go any further back. You get sort by, view, grid, and you get documents, pages, and all. And that's basically it because they don't have a true home screen. It's just going to be whatever screen you're working on. If you're new to Gallery, you must be very patient with this, the red and blue and white and lime green refreshes that happen all over the place. This is not the fault of Remarkable. This is inherently the type of screen that they are using. We used it on the Good eReader bigme Galley, Sharp used it on the 8, and Pocketbook used it on the Viva. It is always going to do that. They give you a disclaimer at the beginning of the device when you start it up that this is going to happen. This is how Gallery works. This is the way it refreshes. It leaves little remnants behind, but that's the cards that they are playing with. First thing I want to check out is the eraser, because I am enamored by this eraser design. Not only does it press down ever so slightly, it actually mimics the body texture, so it's going to undoubtedly feel great. This feels like almost like one of those pen erasers, those pink pen erasers from back in the 80s where you could erase pen strokes. It is a great feel. Now there's a little bit of a delay in it going away. As you can see, it's still there. You kind of have to kick it to make it go away, and it's going to leave a lot of artifacting around when it comes to gallery, so you might have to kick out and kind of come back in to clear the screen the whole way. Now there are different ways you can, open up palettes and stuff like that will force refreshes, press undos, redos, etc. But for the most part, gallery is a imperfect technology to the point where it's not going to be the same level of usability as Kaleido. Now they have their pencil, and their pencil, they pioneered tilt. So I am eagerly awaiting a thick line black pencil tilt. Let's see how this works. Best tilt in the industry, by far. There's a lot of manufacturers, Kindle Scribe including, that attempt to do tilt and this ever so subtle dusting, but no one does it better than Remarkable. The pressure sensitivity here is insane. It's so realistic. When it comes to the pen choices, you get 9, which is a lot. That is a lot of choices of pen. You get ballpoint pen, you get pencil, you get paintbrush, you get shader. There's so much here, and there's 9 colors as well. Now you also get line thicknesses, but that's just a starting point, because as you saw with the pencil, we do have pressure sensitivity. So even if you choose a thinner line in cyan, you don't have to worry that it's going to be only that thin, because you can press harder and it'll make it thicker depending on how you draw. So don't live and die too much by the 3 choices there. This does definitely have pressure sensitivity. Now, I do notice that a couple of the colors are throttled depending on the paintbrush or the type of pen you choose. For example, shader seems to get rid of a few things because it's kind of meant for shading. So it's probably dictating what it can and can't use at any given time when it comes to blending and just abiding by the rules of the technology itself. Gallery colors look insane. They look super hyper realistic, and all of that is oh so evident when you're drawing. Now the drawing itself is kind of sloppy. It's shaded and blurry, but that's to get the job done. And then they hit you with this refresh, which it's a happy compromise because there's not really any other way to do it. You see, you get this pen strokey, bleedy type of acrylic paint, and then you get those concise lines, which is quite nice in the end result. So you can see here when you blend the colors, it looks like it's mixing, but it's not quite to the point where you're mixing on a paint palette. It's just temporary until it finally settles in. And some colors, like oranges, are almost impossible to produce, which is why, as suspected, orange is absent with most colors except for the highlighter. Orange is not going to be an easy color to work with. In fact, this one has a certain level of opacity behind it. You see it cut through the green there. But for the most part, yellow or maybe a red takes the helm for the orange. But it's part of the technology. When we were even developing ours, they were letting us know that kind of concern. But the colors are absolutely gorgeous. There's fairly concise lines throughout all, with a little bit of inconsistencies and a little bit of alpha glow around certain parts. But all things considered, the color note-taking is top-notch. The selection tool. I love the selection tool. You mask your area like that. From here, you can move it around, and surprisingly, it's pretty quick. I didn't expect it to be that quick when we were testing. It's quite nice. You can expand it, you can cut it, you can put it on a new page, you can copy it, you can save it for later via cut, and you can do what some manufacturers do within the selector tool itself, is text conversion. So you can choose your handwriting language, click confirm, and your selection of text now turns itself into text. Now the problem is when you do this, the thing you wrote is gone, so it doesn't create a new one. It actually overlaps the handwritten part and changes it into text. But from here you can cut your text, you can embolden, you can italicize, you can edit it, you can do whatever you want. Aside from handwriting conversion, which is very nice, you can also utilize typed text. You can add text using the keyboard down below. The keyboard is a traditional QWERTY keyboard with no number row. You have secondary and tertiary keys via a toggle. That is very quick for gallery. A lot of the not so elephant in the room situation of this is that gallery is traditionally slow. But what they've done is they've utilized the latest technology of gallery to make the latency way lower, which means it's quicker. So as you can see, that was phenomenally quick for what it is. And we'll show you the type folio a little bit later on, but the onboard keyboard is adequate. And anything you don't want on the screen that you have done can easily be undid with an undo or redid with a redo by clicking the toggles right there. You can go to your thumbnails or your table of contents and you can choose from everything with a little bit of a thumbnail image of what is on that particular page. You have your tags, important, follow-up, and new tag, and layers. They basically pioneered layers. Let's just call it like it is. Remarkable did a lot of things for the note-taking industry, and layers is one of them. You get 5 layers plus a template layer and a text layer now, so you can do things without upsetting the respective layer. If I have my text and I want to draw over it, it almost looks like I've upset it to the point where there's no return now. Well, when you erase, you're not affecting the layer beneath it, because when you go back to layers, your text layer is going to be right there, unaffected by anything on top. You can present with screen share, send by email, and convert to text. Instead of using the selector tool, you can choose convert to text as the whole page, and it is going to convert the entire thing to text, and it'll put it on the screen. From here, you can click text and then edit text, and from there, you're going to have access into the individual items within this body. You can continue writing, you can select all, you can long press, you can crack out your type folio, and that's how you access the text. Because when it's on the screen, it's not very intuitive because you can't click it and you can't use the selector tool on it. So it's kind of like, how do I access it? You have to click this and then click edit text, and that brings you into what the text is on the screen. One of my favorites is send or export. So you would click send by email. You can choose from a bevy of ways to go about this. You can add an email address, you can do PDF, PNG, SVG, text in email, and then once you have it all ready to go, you click send and you send a message. This is very good for doing things like signing documents. If there's something at the bottom of the page you need to sign like this, you would just bring in this via email, sign it away, and send it off, all within one device. You don't have to print, you don't have to scan, you don't have to send it back. It's all done on board. Finally, at the bottom, you have what page you are on. You have notebook settings, set to landscape, search, and add page. There is no set to landscape way to get there via accelerometer or gyroscope because it doesn't have one. You will have to force it into that. And unfortunately, it doesn't have a split screen, and it doesn't use it device wide, so when you go out of it, it is gone. I would have liked to see maybe a split screen of elements, to have maybe a book on one side and a text body on the other side, or a note section on the other side, just to kind of mix things up, but there's no way to trigger that. Now, a lot of people might be saying that the Remarkable Paper Pro's use case isn't e-reading directly, but it is, because it is one of the 3 things you can choose from: notebooks, PDFs, and ebooks, and that's really the only thing other than note-taking this can do. So looking at this again, as we said at the top of the hour, the whiteness is going to be extremely different than the Remarkable 2. And don't worry, we're going to be doing a separate video on the Remarkable 2. The second thing before we push this out of frame is the refresh. You can see with the Remarkable 2, as you swipe like this, it's pretty simple, pretty standard, what you'd expect. Gallery is a little bit of a different beast, because as you start to turn pages, you start to get into some pretty heavy delays and refresh issues, and you might be wondering why. And again, it just comes with the inherent slowdown of having a gallery enabled unit, which there are currently none outside of these guys, as all three of the other ones have failed. What can you do as an ebook reader? Can you long press? You can't. Now, they have an idea for this, is that when you go here, you can do your highlighting from there. So when you do your highlighting, doesn't matter how poorly you drew that line, it will highlight well after the fact. So you don't have to be completely straight, can be a little bit wavy, and then once you let go, it's going to take a couple seconds, then it's going to adjust accordingly. Yes, you can write over the entire page, and yes, you do get a carryover of the note-taking palette to your desire. So I can go magenta with a paintbrush and draw over it all day long. When I swipe away, when I swipe back, all that's going to be there all the same. Once I do make my notes, you can utilize the same send function as send by email as you did before. No, you can't convert text because there's no reason to, but you are now able to send all of your notes by email. So if you have clients or if you have students and you want to say, you know what, this sentence isn't up to snuff, you go like that, you put a star, you put a check mark, you put a smiley face, and you send it right off. As an ebook reader, it's on the poorer side. It breaks immersion pretty much every swipe, and some of the swipes don't do anything, and you get this weird kind of lime green yellow refreshing on the screen. Kind of looks like a Game Boy screen from the 80s that's spazzing out as you're swiping by. So just know that when you do have this unit, although it looks great, it's going to be a little bit on the grayer side, it's going to be a little bit on the slower side. So I wouldn't live and die by this for ebook reading, but it most definitely can do it on a big scale. PDFs. PDFs look really good. Now, Gallery 3. You can't get much better than Gallery 3. The only thing better than Gallery 3 is Spectra 6, and that one isn't really consumer available. It is to a certain degree, but Gallery 3 is going to be the most realistic looking color you can get. Yellows are good, greens are good, reds are good. Look how rich everything looks. Look how flawless everything looks. It looks so good, so real. But you have to deal with that slowdown. Once you get past that, once you deal with this, and once you become to love this unit, you will kind of put all that aside and say, you know what? It comes with the territory. I can't keep dwelling on it. It is what it is. That's the cards that I was dealt. This is the beast I have chosen. Once you are in this is an experience like no other. Literally, because it's the only unit in the game. The accuracy of the pen, how fast it is on this unit, and just the overall quality of everything is just second to none when it comes to its visuals. It's second to a lot of manufacturers and devices when it comes to other aspects like multimedia and overall usability. But this thing is gorgeously functional, and I love drawing on it. I absolutely love drawing on this unit. If you can also get past this kind of paint splotchy nature of your lines, which honestly isn't that bad, and if it means a quicker experience, then so be it. And then once it renders, you just get this absolutely flawlessly solid line, then so be it. Let's join the party and let's go along with the ride. This quality looks exactly like a magazine. It is so overly clear and just miraculously displayed. Because we can't look at videos or any other piece of media, we want to draw the attention to one thing. They're playing a dangerous game here by trying to balance the feel of note-taking with a gritty screen that gives you a pen-realistic feel, but utilize Gallery, which has the greatest overall viewing experience in the game. But with that, they've made a little bit of a fatal error. Ever so slightly, and this is us nitpicking, of course. You can see here that there is this almost high grit layer of peaks and valleys that go over the entire screen. Now, this is amazing for the note-taking experience and pretty critical to its feel. However, it comes at a detriment to the Gallery screen because you're not utilizing the full potential of what Gallery has to offer. By putting this layer on here, you actually deteriorate the smoothness and the overall crispiness of the Gallery screen, and you're almost saturating it with a little bit of a fuzz, so the lines aren't quite as clean as some Kaleido devices, and they're not quite as clean as the Good e-reader bigme Galley. Although this is faster and works better and is more realistic, it is a fun observation to see that it has come at a little bit of a disadvantage to the overall cleanliness of the screen. As it stands, the Remarkable Paper Pro is a well-executed Gallery 3 device. We ourselves know how hard it is to work with the technology, and they've done it better than any manufacturer in the game. It's usable, it's real, it's purchasable, and it looks great. It's built with bulletproof materials, looks good every step of the way. The pen is miraculous, the folio choices are of the highest quality. Everything about this screams premium. However, with that comes an exorbitant price tag, ranging anywhere depending on market and setup from $580 to as much as $1,100 USD, which can set someone back fairly significantly. However, the pros outweigh the cons by a good margin. The Remarkable Paper Pro gets an 8 out of 10. Its slowdowns and refreshes hurt it ever so slightly from being truly remarkable, but for what it is a well-executed, hyper-capable, colorful e-note. Thank you guys all so much for dropping by. Thank you to all of our members. Thank you to Remarkable for sending us this sample, and stay tuned for more content from goodereader.com.